The air was thick with the scent of decay, a metallic tang that clung to the back of her throat. She woke to the sound of her own ragged breathing, her body pressed against the damp, moss-covered ground. Above her, the canopy of trees twisted into a labyrinth of shadows, their branches clawing at a sky choked by swirling ash-gray fog. She didn't know where she was. She didn't even remember her name. The jungle pulsed around her, alive in a way that felt wrong. The leaves whispered secrets in a language she couldn't understand, and the ground beneath her trembled faintly, as if the planet itself were breathing. She pushed herself up, her hands sinking into the soft earth, and froze. A low, guttural growl reverberated through the air, so deep it seemed to come from inside her skull. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she scanned the fog, her eyes straining to pierce the veil. Something moved. A shape, tall and impossibly thin, emerged from the mist. Its limbs were too long, its movements too fluid, like a marionette controlled by invisible strings. Its face, if it could be called a face, was a smooth, featureless expanse of black, reflecting the dim light like polished obsidian. It tilted its head, studying her, and she felt its gaze like a physical weight, pressing against her chest. Run. The words screamed in her mind, but her legs refused to obey. The creature took a step forward, its elongated fingers twitching, and she finally found the strength to move. She stumbled backward, her boots slipping in the mud, and turned to flee. The jungle swallowed her whole, its twisted roots and vines snaking around her ankles, trying to pull her down. She could hear the creature behind her, its footsteps silent but its presence undeniable. A cold, oppressive force that chased her deeper into the unknown. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out, collapsing against the trunk of a massive tree. Her hands trembled as she clutched her knees, trying to steady her breathing. The jungle had gone eerily quiet, the whispers silenced, the growls vanished. But the silence was worse. It felt deliberate, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something. That's when she saw it. Carved into the tree's bark was a symbol, jagged and intricate, glowing faintly with a pale blue light. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, drawing her closer. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the rough surface, and the moment she made contact, a flood of images exploded in her mind. A city vast and alien, its towering spires piercing a blood-red sky, a machine ancient and incomprehensible, humming with a power that could unravel reality. A word whispered in a voice that was both hers and not hers, echoing through the corridors of her mind. Demon. She jerked her hand away, gasping for air. The symbol's light dimmed, but the word lingered, burning in her thoughts like a brand. She didn't know what it meant, but she knew it was important. It was a key, a warning, a weapon. The growl returned louder this time, and she spun around to see the creature standing at the edge of the clearing. Its featureless face seemed to ripple, as if it were trying to form something. A mouth, perhaps, or eyes. It took another step toward her, and she realized with a sinking dread that it wasn't alone. Shadows moved in the fog, their shapes shifting and merging, until the clearing was surrounded by a dozen of them. She was trapped. But the word was still there, burning in her mind, and she clung to it like a lifeline. She didn't know how, but she knew it was her only chance. She closed her eyes, focusing on the word, letting it fill her thoughts until it was all she could hear, all she could feel. Demon. The air around her crackled with energy, and when she opened her eyes, the creatures had stopped. They stood frozen, their heads tilted in unison, as if listening to a sound only they could hear. The symbol on the tree flared brighter, its light spreading through the jungle like a shockwave, and the creatures began to dissolve, their bodies crumbling into ash. For a moment, she thought it was over. Then the ground beneath her feet gave way, and she was falling, tumbling through darkness until she landed in a cavern lit by the same pale blue light. The walls were covered in more symbols, each one pulsing with a rhythm that matched her heart. At the center of the cavern stood the machine from her vision, its surface covered in shifting patterns that seemed to defy logic. And standing in front of it was a man. He looked human, but his eyes were wrong, too bright, too knowing. He smiled as she approached, and his voice echoed in her mind before he even spoke. "You found the word," he said, his tone both approving and mournful. "But do you understand what it means?" She shook her head, her throat too dry to speak. "It's a name," he said, stepping closer. Stepping closer. The name of the entity that created this place, this world, this reality. It's a prison, and the word is the key to its destruction. But be warned, once you use it, there's no going back. She stared at him, her mind reeling. Who are you? I'm what's left of the last person who tried, he said, his smile fading. The demon doesn't take kindly to those who defy it. Before she could respond, the machine began to hum, its patterns shifting faster, brighter. The man's form flickered, his body dissolving into light, and she realized with a start that he wasn't real. He was a projection, a memory. The word burned in her mind louder now, more insistent. She knew what she had to do. She stepped forward, placing her hand on the machine's surface, and spoke the word aloud. Demon. The cavern erupted in light, the symbols on the walls shattering like glass. The machine's hum rose to a deafening roar, and she felt herself being pulled apart, her body dissolving into pure energy. For a moment, she saw it, the entity, vast and incomprehensible, its form a chaotic swirl of light and shadow. It screamed a sound that shook the very fabric of reality, and then it was gone. She woke on the jungle floor, the fog lifting to reveal a sky streaked with gold and crimson. The air was clean, the whispers silenced. The word was gone from her mind, its purpose fulfilled. She didn't know where she was or how she would get home, but for the first time she felt free. The hidden word had been spoken. The demon was no more.